Ever wanted an ad in just one single color? Well, buddy, here you go. This happened many years ago, back when I was still a graphic designer, but I still think about it from time to time. I was 22 then, fresh out of college with a degree in graphic design. My first job was at an advertising agency. Most of what we did was churn out those awful printed car ads that show up in your mailbox and go straight into the trash. You know the kind, one giant screaming font across the page, every bit of empty space crammed with car photos, and 50 vehicles squeezed into a 20 by 15 centimeter layout. In short, pure garbage. Being a clueless graduate with no experience, I naively tried suggesting ideas on how to make ads that actually looked decent instead of that. But I was very quickly and pretty bluntly told that this was exactly the kind of crap they wanted. Fine, message received. I stopped pushing back. And of course, we had that one client, the big one, the cash cow, who ordered more of this advertising sludge than anyone else. And he had extremely specific requirements about just how awful his ads had to look. Impact font only in every layout, filling practically every corner. In one ad, he demanded that we cram over 100 cars into a single block. When the layout went to print, it looked like one of those stereogram pictures. I put up with this guy and his absurd demands for over a year. But over time, he somehow managed to get even worse. He started dictating which colors we were allowed to use and which were strictly forbidden. And the list of banned colors kept growing. Eventually, I got completely fed up. When he announced that orange was now banned too, I asked him, "So you don't want me to use red, orange, yellow, green, purple, pink, brown, white, or black?" He confirmed. I said, "All right." That left only blue. So I spent several hours turning every car, every piece of text, every font, basically every element in the layout into the exact same shade of blue. No gradients, no shadows, no accents, just solid blue everywhere. The result was a giant blue rectangle that looked like someone had rolled over it with a paint roller. Sure, I could have drawn a square like that in 2 seconds, but I deliberately spent hours using every single element he had demanded just to cover my ass. Because when this masterpiece got sent for approval, the client predictably lost his mind and called to yell at me. I calmly explained that he himself had limited me to a single color blue, and that I'd used all the images and elements he required, simply recoloring them. All calls were recorded, so management had no complaints about what I did. Of course, I still had to spend a few more hours rebuilding the exact same layout again, with normal photos and the original elements. I'll answer the same way they insisted on communicating with voice messages. Hi, I'm 35 and I work as an IT manager at a small family-owned retail company. Recently, we switched from an ancient ERP system to a new platform, modern, convenient, and noticeably more efficient in terms of functionality. I actually have zero complaints about the product itself. All the pain comes from the support team. They respond fairly quickly, but almost always with voice messages. I've deliberately avoided voice messages for years. They break my concentration and force me to replay the same thing multiple times just to get a simple piece of information. Text is different. You read it once, find what you need, solve the problem. Audio only slows everything down. I asked them several times to switch to text and even mentioned that I have hearing issues. They completely ignored it. Yesterday, our POS terminals stopped communicating properly with the local server, even though technically they were all still online. I checked everything that was my responsibility and then contacted support, because from that point on, the issue was clearly outside my side. As usual, the first reply came as a voice message. When they asked me to send the ID for remote access, I sent it as a voice message. The password too. And then a miracle happened. Support suddenly switched to text. Next, they asked for screenshots. Then they needed administrator credentials. And once again, I sent the long, complicated password with numbers, uppercase and lowercase letters as a voice message. From that point on, the entire conversation continued strictly in text form, including today's update. Turns out they're perfectly aware of how annoying voice messages are. They just don't care until they're the ones who have to deal with them. You won't let me go home even though I'm clearly sick. Fine, let's see what your boss thinks about that. This is a story about my former boss, Jack, who had been hired to get the restaurant back in shape, and instead seemed to really enjoy flexing his authority as general manager. Basically, the guy was a classic power-tripping boss who liked giving orders a lot more than actually working. A little about me. At the time, I was 17, working part-time at a restaurant after school while saving money for college. I also had brutal seasonal allergies. These days, I keep 3 bottles of strong antihistamines stashed in different places so I can always reach them quickly. My allergy attacks come on suddenly, so taking a pill in the morning isn't really a solution. But back then, it didn't matter anyway, because I wasn't taking anything at all. My allergies had never been severe enough to interfere with work. And as a broke high school kid, I didn't exactly have money to throw around on medication. This incident changed that. So here's what happened. One fall morning, I was working the drive-through register right across from a Palo Verde tree. If you've got those trees where you live, you know what kind of hell their pollen causes in the fall. After about an hour, my nose was already running like a faucet. I could tell where this was going, so I blew my nose and went to find Jack to sort it out. Working in food service with a runny nose is obviously a bad idea, so I was pretty sure he'd be reasonable about it. Yeah? No. I had given him way too much credit. First, I asked if I could just switch to a different position, farther away from that damn tree. No, we're fully staffed today. I'm not moving you. Okay then, could I at least run to the store on the corner for a couple of minutes and buy some basic antihistamines? No. Company policy says you can't leave and come back during the same shift. Which was complete nonsense, by the way. People regularly stepped out during longer breaks to grab food. At that point, I was already starting to wonder what the hell was going on. It was obvious I had a runny nose even while I was just standing there talking to him. Still, I figured there was no way he'd push it to total absurdity. So I suggested the obvious. If I couldn't switch positions and couldn't go buy medication, maybe he should just send me home. Nope. He told me I had to stay where I was, dripping snot all over the counter while talking to customers. That was the moment I realized he wasn't going to budge. The guy wanted me sitting there smiling through all the symptoms. Great. Time for some malicious compliance. There's one detail I haven't mentioned yet. I actually got along pretty well with the franchise owner, Sam, the only person above Jack. I also knew that on this particular day of the week, Sam usually stopped by the restaurant during my shift to handle paperwork. Jack knew that too, but apparently never considered that Sam might disagree with his decision. So I waited. I grabbed a box of tissues from the staff restroom, went back to my station, and kept working as professionally as I could. I went through one box of tissues, then another, and half of a third before Sam showed up. He arrived about an hour before the end of my shift. One of the shift leads had given me the tissues, and I paid him back later. I felt bad using that many, especially since Jack certainly wasn't paying for them. My throat was sore from all the mucus draining down, and my voice had turned hoarse from constant strain. I'm pretty sure customers thought I had the plague or something. Finally, Sam came in. I calmly waited while he walked around the restaurant, chatted with employees, asked how everyone was doing, and talked with whoever wasn't busy. Eventually, he walked up to the self-service counter and immediately noticed the state I was in. "Oh, hey, are you feeling okay? You look rough," he said. "I'm hanging in there. Allergies acting up, nothing serious," I replied. Sam frowned. "Are you sure? That looks worse than just allergies." "No, really. It's the Palo Verde tree. Happens every year." Sam looked confused. "Then why didn't you move to a different station or take some medication? You shouldn't be working around food like this." Hook, line, and sinker. I asked Jack. He said no to both. He also wouldn't let me go home. I'm just trying to make it through the shift. Boom. Sam's face twisted for a second, then hardened into a very determined expression. "Come with me," he said. "I'll find someone to cover your station, and then we're going to talk to Jack." Sam asked me to hand my headset to one of the employees who happened to be free. Turns out that wasn't difficult at all. And then he led me to the back office where Jack was doing whatever mysterious things Jack always did back there. Jack greeted Sam, then noticed me and frowned. "What are you doing here? You're supposed to be at your station." Jack started scolding me. I didn't even get a chance to answer before Sam cut in sharply. "I found someone to cover him. Why did you leave him at the drive-thru knowing that tree triggers his allergies like this?" Jack started repeating the same excuses he had given me, but Sam interrupted again. "We don't even have a rush right now. You could have easily moved him somewhere else or just sent him home." Jack tried one more angle. I asked the others, and nobody wanted to switch. Sam turned to me. "I'm sending you home. You shouldn't be finishing your shift looking like this. I'm sorry you had to deal with this as long as you did." I thanked him and left. Unfortunately, Sam closed the office door, so I didn't get to hear the rest of that conversation. I clocked out and immediately ran to the store on the corner, where I quickly downed some medication just to stop the endless stream of mucus. Long story short, later I developed a nasty, persistent cough that wouldn't go away, so I went to the clinic. Turns out a lot of that mucus had ended up in my lungs, and I had developed pneumonia. Fantastic. The result? 1 day of strict bed rest ordered by the doctor, a course of steroids, and a big pack of pills I had to take for a week before I finally felt normal again. Since then, I always carry antihistamines with me, so I never end up in a situation like that again. As for Jack, as far as I know, nothing really happened to him, although the incident was briefly mentioned at the next staff meeting. Sam reminded everyone that employees shouldn't come to work sick. And if symptoms show up during a shift, those people should be sent home immediately. Imagine that. Unfortunately, after everything that happened, the work atmosphere was pretty much ruined for me, and I found another job not long after where I was much happier. Jack, meanwhile, still works there to this day, although I've heard rumors he's planning to quit and move to another country to live with his girlfriend. I genuinely feel sorry for that woman.